Hey everybody, this is Kirk Graham. You are listening to the Making of an Exception podcast, and today we've got Megan Gonzalez with us. What's up, Megan?
What's up, Kirk?
Thanks for being here. You are an exception to the rule. That's the whole point of the podcast, is because of who you are. I've known you for a while. You and your husband, Jason, J-Dog. Dude, he's the best in the world.
He sure is.
He is. But you are the best in the world as well. And you've built a creative business and creative studio, and super gifted, super skilled. And the fact that you are who you are today, passionate about the local church, passionate about Jesus, but you're successful out there doing it. And you have a huge following. I look up to you guys so much, and I'm excited to be able to talk about your story. So let's start. We'll just do it.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So where are you at today? MaeMae Co is your company. And if you want to explain a little bit of that, and as well as like your family, and you have a dog, right?
Yeah, I do. Hope. So MaeMae Co is my creative studio, and it's always evolving. And what I do right now is I help people with their branding and their marketing through visuals. So whether it's graphic design or photo direction or styling, I help people with campaigns or just maintaining the look and feel of their business. Yeah.
So what is styling? Because I see it out there, and I feel like it's a fake thing. It's now all the stylists out there are like hate me now, but I'm just saying, like, what is styling? Like I see a lot of like pictures with, like color palettes. And like, but then I've got a paper color palette, and then the next photo is like, it's like I've used different colors of sand, color palettes, and like, it's like way artsy, but like, what is it?
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine what pictures you've seen that you're describing. So what do you mean when you say sometimes it feels fake?
I just mean like I'm not familiar with the term.
Sure. So, yeah. Like it just seems.
What is a stylist? Like you pick people's clothes out. Like I've heard that type of stylist.
So styling can apply to a lot of different mediums. So clothing, wardrobe could definitely be one of them. What I mostly work in is still life and product styling. So what that means is if you were looking at an ad in a magazine and you saw somebody eating cereal, and you can see somebody sitting there in their outfit in the space with the spoon and the napkin and all of that, and you kind of can feel a story or get a sense of a style from the photo. The stylist, along with some other people, art director, creative director, they set that photo up, and obviously the photographer, so that you get like a little sliver of a story through a photo. So what I've really been learning from styling is there's so many different layers of it. And what I'm really passionate about is all of the work that goes into before you get to the set. So preparing the storyline and figuring out what are the best things to bring to support the product that you're styling, so that you tell the best story and that you can get your audience engaged, and they can either see themselves in that product or they can see how they need that product. So I'm really passionate about the setup of it.
When you say you specialize in stills, like in styling, that's like for like a print ad or like I mean, you say campaign, but it's like something that's going to go in a bunch of magazines. Or
exactly.
Like digital stills.
A lot of digital stuff, a lot of Instagram stuff, ads online, website material.
So you're setting up a photo.
Yes, exactly.
That's the other thing that is like, it's fake because it's obviously
totally.
Set thing. So you're trying to evoke somebody who's looking at the picture, a certain feeling, a certain desire, whatever, to buy a product, to do
exactly.
Whatever.
Right. And what I was interested in knowing why you said fake is because one of my favorite parts of styling is like the juxtaposition of something that feels really real because you're trying to evoke a strong emotional response. But everything you're doing is so fake. And I actually love that. Like, I love the idea of this isn't working. So what can we do that's fake that will make it feel or look how you would think it should look? So like if I'm styling something, we might put some kind of lift underneath it. So basically the object isn't laying flat. It's actually completely tilted. But it looks flat in the photo. Or this might be TMI, but I think it's really funny. I worked with this company and they sell tea, and we couldn't get steam to come out of the cup because it was really hot out. And so we microwave tampons. and they make steam. So it's like things like that where you're like fabricating these scenarios so that it looks
but how did
real.
you get to the point where you knew that microwaving a tampon was gonna steam?
Well, here's the really weird part is, so on set, there's a lot of people. So you have the photographer, me.
So a whole crew.
There's a whole crew of us. So on this specific set, one of the Digitech, so he's somebody that's helping the photographer.
That's the title I would want, by the way.
Digitech.
Wow, I didn't even know that
cool.
was a thing.
You kind of sound like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I want. Charizard, the Digitech.
But he was like, oh, you know what might work is microwaving tampons. And we're like, how do you know that?
Yeah,
and
like
then,
that's weird. Like that guy's like...
Yeah,
like,
and then the photographer, who also a male,
it's a good idea,
he's
but
like, oh
you're
yeah, I've
also
totally
super
heard
creepy.
that. Yeah, so it's like these two dudes who had the idea.
Tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade. So now I'm always thinking when I'm trying to create a scene, like what are other materials and how do they behave so that we can like fake this if it's not working.
So in that instance, that created steam for the tea. And so that's what you're doing. You're creating something that's somebody looks at that photo and they go, oh, that's a hot cup of tea.
Yeah.
Looks amazing.
Right.
They just don't know the steam came from that.
Right.
Wow. I'm never gonna look at tea or tampons the same again my whole life. It's amazing. This is a great start to the podcast.
It is. It seems really appropriate.
No, it's awesome. It'd be great. So tell me about your personal life, and you're married.
Yes.
And how long you guys been married, and if you want to say anything about J-Dog.
I want to say a lot about J-Dog. So Jason and I have been married for almost 10 years.
Congrats.
Thank
it's
you.
Amazing.
Our anniversary is this June. And we're not secretly old. We just got married really young. We got married when we were 22.
We were in Japan on your 9th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So Jason actually just surprised me. We're going to Paris.
No.
For your 10-year anniversary? Our 10-year anniversary.
Stop
so we'll be there for our anniversary.
How long are you guys staying?
We are going to be there like 2.5-ish weeks. We're going to a few places.
It's like, over half a month.
Yeah,
That's
no
insane.
big deal. It's so exciting. He's literally
10 years.
Jason is really passionate about surprises, and he just like loves planning things. He's so thoughtful.
He's my hero.
He's my hero too. In my phone, he's my hero, Jason Gonzalez. And one time at the Apple store, I was like getting help with my phone.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, your hero is calling you." So let the world know.
He's my hero in my phone too. So I'm just kidding. He's just Jason Gonzalez. So you guys going to Paris? Have you ever been to Paris?
No, I've never been to Europe.
Has he been
He's
to
been
Paris?
to Italy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the first experience. You guys are going to do the whole Eiffel Tower thing.
Yeah, well, I am kind of funny. I like push against all of the tourist spots. And so I'm like, am I going to regret not seeing the Eiffel Tower /
Wait, you're not going to even see it?
I don't know. I feel like you kind of have to, but I'm not really interested in that. Like I want to go to like flea markets and like go like dig around.
So you don't want to go to the Louvre. You want?
I do want to go there.
Okay, so you're gonna go.
I studied art in school, and I've always wanted to go there.
Got it.
So I'm excited about that.
Don't they have like an Apple store out, like a cool Apple store out by their like glass triangle thing, like pyramid?
Really? I don't know. I'll let you know.
Just have a feeling about that.
I'll let you know when I come back.
Yeah, let me know. Visit the Apple store for me.
Okay, I will.
Not that I care about that. I'm just kidding. Okay, so that's Jason. He's
That's
taking you on
Jason.
an amazing trip.
He's incredible. Jason is a writer, and he's worked in journalism, sports journalism, and right now he's working on telling stories for a multitude of different, I don't know what you call it, arenas, to use a sports term. Yeah. So he is working on writing a book about his grandma who died tragically and the story of how it affected everybody in her life after and the process of healing. And then he's also passionate about telling the faith stories of coaches and athletes. Yeah. And kind of like what you were sharing with me about your passion about this podcast, he feels like there's media for all sorts of different interests and faith is a huge part of our world, and so is sports.
And in athletics too. Like
exactly.
I'm not a sports guy, but I know a bunch of names that are like public about their faith.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not like I can go like read a bunch of interviews about it. I can't so if there was that.
Right. So that's what Jason's creating. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So he's creating a publication that will share those stories and give people a platform to talk more about their faith because mainstream media doesn't want to ask the questions about that. You know, they may allow different athletes and coaches to like say something, but they don't dig into it. So he's a big investigator. He loves asking questions.
Yes.
So he's going to dig into it.
And he won an Emmy.
He sure did. Yeah, he did.
Like a writing Emmy, which
real
I didn't know they gave those out.
Yeah. So when people see it in our house, they ask me, "Where'd you get that?" Because they think it's a prop I found at like a
fake.
vintage store.
Think it's like,
and I'm like, "That's not mine. That's Jason's, and that's legit. His name is on it. He won an Emmy."
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, tell us about how you're raised. For those that are listening, you are half Chinese, and half Irish, which is awesome. But you're raised in that type of family.
I was.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bloomington, Minnesota.
Yeah.
My mom is from Tucson, Arizona, and my dad is from Chicago. And they met in Northern California, and then for my dad's job, moved here to Minnesota. And I lived here with my parents and my two younger brothers until I was...
Two bros. Do you have a sister?
Two bros. No, just two bros.
I met these bros.
I have sister-in-laws.
Super cool. Sisters-in-law.
Yeah. So we lived here, and then we moved to Phoenix when I was 13.
Yep. For your dad's job again?
For my dad's job, yeah. And that was really difficult, and I don't regret it. I think that was a great
When you were
challenge.
13 years old?
Yeah, that's such a tough time to move.
We moved, I had lived in Wisconsin from first grade going into my junior year. We moved going into my junior year of high school.
Oh, that's hard.
And we moved to North Dakota.
Yeah. From Wisconsin.
Yeah. So, and that was before I had Facebook or a cell phone. I didn't even have a cell phone yet.
Yeah.
Which is insane. So it was like, so the moving of, you lose all your friends and all that stuff.
It's
tough. Just tough for you.
It is, yeah. And when you're 13, you're like just starting to develop kind of like those closer friendships.
Yeah.
Because you finally like have capacity for
you're
that.
not just like buddies, but now you have like best friends.
Yes, exactly. And when my parents were sitting us three kids down to tell us that we are moving, my friend called, and like old school voicemail, like it's like saying it out loud as it's recording.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey Megan, it's Elspeth." And I just wanted,
Sorry, what was the name?
Elspeth. It's very unique.
It sounds like an elvish name.
Elspeth.
Like she's from Lord of the Rings. Elspeth.
Elspeth.
I've never heard that name in my life.
I know, it's very cool.
Peth?
Peth, yeah. Else and then Peth. Mix them together.
What a legend.
And so she's calling while my parents are telling me. So I just am like screaming, crying, like bursting into tears. So drama.
You're ripping me away from my life.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my brothers, because we didn't even know what Arizona was.
Yeah.
And one of my brothers was like, "Do they speak English in Arizona?" Like it was just all so foreign to us.
Yeah.
So we moved there, and then I lived there until I went to college. And I went to Biola University in Southern California. And
What'd you study?
I studied fine art.
Okay.
Not just art, the finest of art.
The finest of art.
Yeah.
That's why you're going to go to the Louvre.
Right, exactly.
You can do it.
And then the Apple Store. But back to my family. What do you want to know about my family?
Yeah. So part of this podcast is talking about the fact that you are highly successful in this world, whether you think you are or not. God's given you a great platform, but also you love the Lord, and there's a whole faith journey of that. Were you raised in a family? Were you raised in church? That type of thing. Yeah. What were the dynamics growing up?
Yeah, I was raised in a family where faith and Jesus was really important to us. And we went to a church that was like right across the street from my house growing up in Minnesota. And my dad would pull us on a sled in the winter to church.
No.
Yeah. The best.
Just like a legit sled, you guys just
like, a little string. And then there's the three of us, and he's just
going to church.
Yeah, pulling us.
So that's what you remember growing up. You were always in church, all that.
Yep. I remember walking to church. I remember Sunday school. Actually, some of my understanding of stories from the Bible are all from Sunday school, being a kid. And I went to a private school until I was in 7th grade, and even did devotional time as a kid at school. So God being real and having a relationship with him has been a huge part of my life, and just almost like a fact of my life since I was young.
It is. It just is.
It just is. Yeah. God is real. I feel him. I talk to him.
Yeah.
And when I was really young, I think I was 4-ish. I understood the idea, you you can ask Jesus to be a part of your life and come into your heart. And I remember being a kid and kneeling at the top of my stairs and like praying for him to come in my heart. You remember this at 4 years old? I remember doing it, yeah.
No way.
And I remember one time my mom came and she's like, what are you doing? And I told her, and she was like, well, you don't have to keep asking. It's just once. So, yeah, the Lord has been a big part of my life since I was 4.
Yeah, for your whole life.
Yeah, for my whole life.
That's awesome. I think when I think about a story like that, not that you haven't had moments of doubting or moments of pain or moments of kind of doing your own thing for a little while, but like your story seems to be one that I'm a dad of a 3-year-old daughter, and I would love that to be her story, that she just grows up knowing who Jesus is, grows up loving the local church, and never strays from that. You know, my story in high school, I was kind of doing my own thing and had a tough 4 years of trying to find satisfaction in a bunch of other things outside of Jesus. And the fact that you are here and you have that story is proof that, you know, God is faithful and can be, and a lot of it is our choice. Like, is he the Lord of our life? Is he directing our path? Is he involved in our daily life and all that? So you have the story that I pray for my daughter to have, you know, and my wife's pregnant, so, and our second daughter. So like, I want them to have that story of like, they grew up in it, but it became very real for them. It's not just like, this is the Graham thing, or this is the thing that, you know, this is our family, this is what we do, you know, but it becomes very real for them at a young age, and then they live it out for the rest of their life. And so it's just awesome. Yeah, God's faithfulness.
Yeah, he sure is. And when we moved to Arizona, that was then I was 13. That was a moment where I just, you know, I had been in a world where it was my decision, but I wasn't really different from a lot of people around me in my faith. My faith was very similar to most people around me. And when we moved to Arizona, I went to public school for the first time.
Got it. Yeah. So you went from Christian school to public school.
Right. Yeah. And it's just a very different culture out west versus here in Minnesota. And that was a time where I decided for a second time, like, this for sure is the way I want to live my life and who I want to be. And, you know, kind of like what you were saying, like, we are looking for satisfaction in other things at certain points in our life. And that was tempting to me to want to look for satisfaction in like trying to be cool at school. First of all, trying to figure out how to be cool at a public school when you have no concept of what's going on is so weird. Like one of the things that was cool was like you would link arms with people as you walk down the hall.
Yep, I wasn't cool because...
Does that sound so weird or what? And then they would make like announcements like no more than 3 to a link students. No. Like, so
like
weird.
Like the principals on the overcom. Like,
right. And like I had the high white socks and everybody had like the ped socks, and I was like trying to catch up, you know, but like, you know, I think I was just very tempted to try to find satisfaction and security in popularity or image or just trying to fit in. And just not even fitting in, like surviving. Like if you've ever seen the movie Mean Girls, where she like eats lunch by herself on the toilet, like that's totally me.
Really?
Like, first few days I'm like had no friends and it was like yourself, just too scary to go in the calf. But that was a time where I decided I know the Lord is real, and like this is still the decision I want for my life. So
I as a side note, I was the kid that, this is a legit story, I was in middle school, and somehow I found like an old microwave like out by our house, like behind our like junkyard microwave, and I ripped it apart. And in microwaves are these large magnets, like huge magnets, and I was like, this is so cool. And it was like super strong magnet, so I brought it to school to show my friends this magnet, like this is so awesome. And I realized that all of our lockers, because they're metal, like the magnet would like stick to the locker. And so I was the kid not linking arms with my crew. I was like by myself. I had a magnet in my pants, like in my pocket, and I stuck it to the lockers, and I would walk down the whole hall this one day, walk down the whole hall with a magnet just and then right by the principal's office, Mr. Fruit, and he called me in his office, and it was a nightmare. But that was the story has nothing to do with your life. I'm just saying that was me in middle school, like the worst kid. Just
I hope Mr. Fruit is listening to this, and he's like,
he might be. I don't know.
Graham.
There, yeah, he did. He actually he loved the Lord. He's a good dude, and yeah, he was like, you know better than this. Like, you're a leader. Like, I remember that conversation in his office.
That's good.
Yeah, which is shout out to Mr. Fruit. He's the best.
What's up, Mr. Fruit?
I know, I love that guy. It's awesome. So, how did you get into design? How did you get into the whole creative sphere that you live in today?
Yeah.
Did you just grow up like? Megan, you're so good at drawing, or you're so like you're, everybody just tells you you're good at this stuff, so it's a natural gifting, or is it something you fell into?
Right. So growing up, the activities that I was involved in is I played violin.
Nice.
So I played for 12 years and then taught after. So that was a big part of my life. And then I was on the swim team.
You said you taught violin?
I taught, yeah.
Like teaching
Suzuki,
lessons?
Yeah.
So,
I'm not good
Suzuki?
anymore. Yeah, Suzuki. It's like a Japanese method of
Got it.
teaching.
I thought it was like a type of motorcycle.
It also is that.
Got it.
Yeah, I was not that cool.
So you did violin lessons and motorcycle lessons.
I did at the same time.
It's great.
It's kind of like a Vegas show thing.
Yeah.
And then so then I swam. So those were like my two big things in my life. You know, elementary, middle school, high school, college, and I always felt really drawn to different creative things, but I'm not good at drawing. I'm not good at, I would say, like the traditional fine art type of expressions.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that was like a very evident thing that I had any kind of talent in or interest in.
Yeah.
But there are certain things I remember from being a kid that I would get really passionate about. Like I would lay in bed. I've always been very high energy, and I think I used to not get all my energy out as a kid. I would literally lay in bed for hours, and I would just like think about stuff. And like one of the things I would think about is like rearranging my room, and I would like rearrange my furniture in my room all the time.
No way.
Like Dewey Decimaled my books. Like I was just like into like arranging and organizing. I remember one time making this like paper boat with my brother Colson. Like finally we stopped playing with Legos. That's the thing when you have brothers is like they kind of dominate what you play. So
well, I have two brothers, and then the youngest is our younger sister.
Bio.
So yeah, that's her nickname. That's so funny. Yeah, so the first words my sister ever said was like she would just say like B-O, B-O, B-O. So then that's what we called her our whole life. Like somehow we called her B-O, which later like in middle school we found out like it actually stood for body odor.
Right.
And then it was like that,
really
like it stuck. Yeah. That's what we call her. So now we just call her B. What's up, B?
What's up, B?
Which is cool.
That is. Nicknames are fun.
So yeah, we dominated. We played.
Dominate.
We played hockey. She would be the hockey goalie,
exactly,
and we would shoot pucks at her.
Right,
it was the greatest.
So we did all of we played with all of their toys and like did all of that and like played with worms and But one time we like took a departure from Legos and worms and we were like making these boats out of paper, and I just remember
like origami style.
Sure. Okay. That makes it sound better. I don't even know how we were making it. But I just remember like having this feeling inside of my heart or somewhere where I just felt really excited and like really like passionate about what we were doing. And I'll never forget that. I don't really even remember what it looked like that we were making.
Yeah.
So yeah, those, and then I would like do like I would cut out things from catalogs.
Yep.
Back to church, I actually used to bring these catalogs from this company called Wild Wings, and they sell paintings of like, it's like hunting ephemera, like ducks and like
what's
hunting
ephemera mean?
Ephemera is just like a fancier word for like doodads, like little trinkets.
Really? Trinkets and doodads. I understand
trinkets,
that.
Doodads,
Never
ephemera.
heard ephemera in my whole life.
We'll put that in your show notes.
Yeah. Show notes.
Definition of ephemera.
Definition, yeah, it's in there.
Note to Tissel. Where I don't even know where I am anymore with this story.
You're talking about your brothers dominating. You're making the paper boats.
So I don't know why my parents let me do this, but I would bring these catalogs to church, and I would bring a little like trash bag. So I'm sure it was noisy, and I would cut out stuff from the catalog and just throw my scraps in one bag and throw my good stuff in another bag. And
just sitting in service doing little arts and crafts.
Yeah, just a little what's up. Just a little ephemera action. And then I would like tape them to shoe boxes. So like stuff like that, I was always
you like loved it.
Yeah, I was like creating these really random little crafts. So fast forward to going to college. I remember my dad sitting me down in 8th grade and saying, "Where do you want to go to college?" And I'm basically like,
I haven't even thought about it. Like,
like what's college
8th grade,
/ what are the names of the college options?
Yeah.
And I said, "What's the best school?" And he was like, well, probably Harvard, but Stanford's closer, so Stanford. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go to Stanford.
Yeah.
And then when I went to high school, I was like at a very like high achieving high school. I don't know. But everybody was like so smart and getting such good grades. And I'm like, I'm not going to Stanford, because if you're going to Stanford and our grades are different, that's probably not my path.
Yeah.
So then I didn't know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. Wasn't worried about it. And then when I was making a decision about where to go to college, I really wanted to swim in school and also wanted to go to a Christian university. And so through my dad's research, also I didn't really like know how to use the internet till I went to college. So I literally I don't know how I would have known what college options were out there.
Really?
Yeah. Love you, Biola. I'm not trying to say you were my like last hope, but like kind of.
You like didn't have a family computer, or like you didn't have?
We
like
had dial-up, and it would go from my dad's computer all the way down the hallway into my parents' bedroom to like the fax outlet. And then if you like tripped over it, like while someone was on an internet session, it's like, who tripped on the cord?
No, and then it takes 20 minutes to log back on.
Oh, for sure. You know, like. Burr, 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 burr.
Yeah, how are you supposed to know?
Yeah, so so I went to Biola University.
And you swam there.
I swam there. So that was like my main motivation.
You didn't swim there. You swam.
I swam.
On the swim team.
Yeah, I didn't swim to Biola from Phoenix.
We all understood that. I don't know why I brought it up. Okay, so you're swimming. Yeah. Were you a good swimmer?
Yeah, I was like out of a scale of 5, maybe like a 3.9.
You're pretty tough.
Pretty good.
But that's good.
Pretty good. I did go to nationals twice in college.
Yeah, so you're good. So you're swimming. Yeah, so that's great.
Anyways, when I was picking my major, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Something I was really passionate about, still am passionate about, is adoption. And so I thought, how could I become involved in adoption, and like what is a career path for that? And so talking with my dad, we, kind of brainstorming majors. It was law. That could be a really great career path, and I could help families with the legal process of adoption. So that was going to be where I was going. But I changed my major 5 times in my first semester because I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to do English. No, I don't want to do that.
You didn't just change it in your head. You
literally went to the registrar and changed it. If there had been like a fee, I probably wouldn't have changed it so much, but it was just like free. So you're like, let's change it again.
I want to try this. Yeah.
Right. So, but before I went, like right before I went to college, maybe a month before, I was like, I really want to study art. And my parents were like, what? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And my mom called the school, and I'm really painting this picture. I was really helpless when I was 18, but truly I was. So my mom calls the school, and she's like, well, you can't study art at Biola because you have to have a portfolio requirement, and you clearly have no work. I didn't save that boat from when I was with my brother. I didn't have the shoe boxes. I didn't have the boat. I had nothing.
Lego castles.
Right. None of that. And so I was like, nah, that stinks. And then I told some friends during interterm, like the space between your first and second semester, we were training at school for swim, that I really wanted to study art. And then a few weeks later, one of them came to me and said, I just heard that they dropped the portfolio requirement to get into the art department. And I'm like, no questions asked. I know where the registrar is. Let me go change it again. Changed my major. So thrilled. Family not as thrilled. Like they're like, what are you doing? Like, where does this go?
Seriously.
Even had like an uncle call me, trying to help me reconsider. And I was like, I don't even know. I don't even know why I want to study it, but just I'm so drawn to it. I must do it.
Obviously, I mean, maybe I know the answer to the question, but do you feel like where's God at in your life in this direction? Like, do you feel like it was like a God thing, or just
totally 100%? I think the Holy Spirit was like moving in me and just like pointing out this passion and like undiscovered skill that was in me. And I think that there's probably moments where a lot of people feel drawn to something and they can't explain it. Yeah. So it can be really hard to make a decision to move towards that thing because you don't have an understanding of what's going to play out.
It's not like a logical move. It's like, it's just a feeling.
100%. This is completely illogical. I mean, I guess if you went on like a deep examination of the things I was excited about, it makes some sense.
Sure.
But at the surface level, it really makes no sense. My first day of class, I couldn't find where the art department was. It was like in the old middle school department it's like this old like locker room that they put the art department in. So I like finally find it. And then we're like going around and we have to say our favorite artist. And I'm like, well, I don't know. And I don't want to say something cliche like Picasso.
Yeah.
And so I can't even remember the name of the artist, but my parents had a painting at their house. And so I said the name of that artist and, to sound deep.
Oh, yeah.
And
was
I think I
legit,
did.
Like, was it a legit painter?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
It's like a local guy like sold his first piece like to your parents
really
somehow.
Cool. Right.
Yeah, that's nice. You had a name that nobody named.
Exactly. Yeah, and in that class we made furniture, and every time I would like go to the saw to like cut wood, I was like, Lord, help me not lose a hand. Have all my fingers, all my hands. I made it. I was sanding these like circular pieces of wood. I made this table that looked like a tree and then had like a leaf as a top.
Yes.
And so the pieces to make the tree were circles, and I was sanding it, and I accidentally let go, and it like flew across the room, and there's one person in the room, missed them. Thank you, Lord. So, yeah, that's how I started into art. And then it just kind of like bopped around. Of course, I changed my emphasis like 3 times as I would.
So, you finally got into the degree you wanted, but then you had to figure out your emphasis.
Right. So I never graduated with a true emphasis because I changed too many times. But what I mostly studied was photography and graphic design.
Yeah, and then so that's how you like later on you started MaeMae. So like you are done with college.
Actually started it in college.
Oh, in college.
Yeah,
so
I
go there. Like, where did MaeMae start? Yeah. It started as Mae Mae Paperie, right?
It did, yeah.
Which it sounds awesome. I just don't know what that means. Like, it's all paper. I mean, obviously it's paper, but
the E part makes it sound like fancier.
Sure. It sounds awesome.
Sounds more like ephemera.
So how did it start, and where is it today, that whole journey?
So I met Jason at Biola our junior year. And he always teases me I fell in love after 1 week, but I truly did.
That's awesome.
So he proposed to me my senior year, and we got married after I graduated. And so I was going to make my own wedding invitations. So before my last semester at school, I started making our wedding invitations, and my dad saw what I was working on at home, and he was like, that's really good. You could make money doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was so affirming. Like, my dad sees that this work is good and that I have a career, like I have potential in this. And so I was like, well, let's make a little business out of it. I had a friend who had started a photography business. So I'm like, can you tell me how to start a business? So I started a business. And then I'm very like 100 or 0. And so I'm like, well, let's do this business. So I start just like, I make a Facebook page about it. I make a blog. I start messaging everybody on Facebook that is like tagged as engaged and in my network.
Yeah.
Got blocked from Facebook like constantly. So I was basically spamming people.
Yeah, totally.
And the worst is when you're like copy pasting a message and you're like, dear Stacy. And then you like copy it, like, and you send it to Lisa. Yeah. And you're like, dear Stacy, again to Lisa. Whoops. Did a few of those. And so that's how I built my business. Like, I was meeting with people in cafeteria, random coffee shops, dorm rooms, like, because it ended up being mostly people at my university, because that was they were in my network. And I was just starting it honestly for fun. It wasn't like my dream. Like, one day I want to start a wedding stationery business, and that's what I'm going to do.
So that was the niche. That was wedding stationery.
Wedding stationery. Yep. So, and I named it Mae Mae Paperie because my brothers growing up called me Mae Mae, and it means little sister in Chinese. Yes,
no way.
Yeah, I'm the big sister. Well, now I'm physically the little sister. And paperie, just I don't know where I saw that word. What you're doing. Right. So I must have seen another business that had that name to signify that they worked in the stationery world. Yeah.
How did it become outside of just wedding stationery? Like, now it's MaeMae Co.
Right.
And you do all this, like a whole bunch of stuff outside of wedding stuff. Like, what was that journey? So like, you just had have you had big opportunities, or like outside, you didn't even look for that thing and it just like came across your table? Like,
yeah. So the first year or 2 of my business, it was like so much hustle of trying to get my name in front of potential clients or people that I could work for. After I graduated school, I actually had thought I would get a job And I wanted to work in magazine or book publishing, doing designs of like covers and interiors and stuff like that. And I just laughed like at how naive I was. Like that's a really hard job to get. And I didn't have any experience yet. And so that ended up not being the path I went down. Applied for a lot of jobs. I didn't get any like callbacks or anything.
So you're always just kind of on your own.
Yeah, I've always worked for myself. Yeah.
Crazy.
And so it was like, well, I have this MaeMae thing, so I guess I have to make it work. Did you do an internship anywhere? I did an internship at my student body at my university.
Yeah.
And actually, like my greatest takeaway from that experience is that my supervisor like wrote on my thing that like I wasn't very creative. And I was like so ticked by that comment that I was like, I'm going to show you who's creative. But aside from that, it wasn't like
you're the most creative.
I mean,
you are.
I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but I felt like I have so much more. Either you can't express it or you don't see it or what. But that just like put a fire under me. I'll like, show you who's creative. Oh, and you know what? I did have an internship. It lasted one day. It was in downtown LA. I was driving to the internship. The car in front of me, it was Halloween. He had this weird dangly hand hanging off the back of his truck, and it was so distracting. And I crashed into him. And it was like stop and go traffic.
You rear-ended him.
I rear-ended him.
Yep.
Anyways, I made it way more dramatic than it needed to be. And the gal I was going to intern for, she was a jewelry designer.
Yep.
Had to come and pick me up at like an auto body shop and like brought Kleenex. Cause when I called her, I was probably like
crying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, why did it only last a day though?
Because then, I think I decided I don't think driving down LA is for me right now.
Legit, it was like because I don't want to make the drive.
No, I don't think that's why. I'm trying to rack my brain why that was it. I don't know. TBD, what happened there?
One day internship.
Yeah, one day internship.
I'll tell you about a one day thing for me. I was in track and field in 7th grade and determining whether or not I want to be a long distance or short distance runner. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to do long distance. Mm-hmm. And I thought I had it in me. And we started the run like this, the first day of practice, 7th grade. And, we started running and we ran by our house. It was like probably a mile and a half in. And then we're going to do like a loop back to the school. And I just went inside my house and didn't go back to practice. So I knew long distance wasn't for me.
That wasn't for
so I'm going to do the 100-meter dash or the 100-yard dash, whatever it is. And, that's what I was going to do. So I got to my first meet.
Yeah.
And this is the one day moment. Like I got to and I remember being so nervous. They're going to shoot the gun off. And I'm looking left and right. I had shoes from Payless, I think, that didn't have cleats. Everybody else had cleats. Like I just had like running shoes from Payless is what we had, it's great. And I just remember being so nervous. The gun goes off and it's my first race of all time. My dad and sister are in the stands and I start running and I kind of like, and I'm going as fast as I can. Like it's a short race. So I'm going as fast as I can. And I remember looking left and right and I was so far behind, like everybody. I was in last, and so I was already at 100%. So I decided to give it a little bit more, and I pulled my groin, and then tripped.
Oh,
so then I'm laying on the ground, and I didn't. I ended up not finishing the race.
Oh, Kirk!
And I quit track and field that day.
Bummer.
Just a little side story.
Did you do it? But you did hockey later.
Yeah, but I played hockey my whole life.
Okay.
So I mean, but track and field just wasn't my thing. So
that's okay.
Anyways, that's my one day experience.
Everybody has a one day experience.
Yeah.
You try that thing and then you're like, nah.
Yeah, totally. So I don't know why you're talking about your internship.
Oh, my internship. Oh, yeah. So my one day internship.
And so now it's MaeMae Co. So that's where
MaeMae.
we're going.
Oh yeah, that's where we're going. That's where
so
we're
what
going.
are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing today?
So how did I get there?
You at one point I remember you telling me you scaled your business, hired some people, and experimented on like how do we scale this business? How do we make it more than myself?
Right.
Yeah, and you learned some stuff through that. What was that like?
Yeah. So those first 2 years where I was pouring a lot of effort into reaching out to people, meeting people, it really paid off. It was like planting a harvest where, for 2 years, it's like there's nothing. You're just scattering so many seeds. And then after that, I started to get some recognition. I was always submitting my work to publications and bloggers. And that was kind of like I started my business in 2008. So that was like at the very start of like wedding blogs. You know, this is barely Twitter is starting. And so you have better avenues to promote yourself outside of just direct one-on-one contact.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would never hear back from the editors I would submit stuff to, but then things started to stick. And I would start to get things published, which would lead to getting clients that you weren't spamming on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I started to have people contact me where we had no connection. It wasn't like, oh, you know, your roommate is my sister's dentist.
Yeah, can you cut me a deal? Like,
right, exactly.
It was like it's legit business
Real
and
people.
You're in demand.
Right, yeah, so it was such a crazy turn. And I remember this one summer, I was like, I have 52 clients, like at once.
Just by yourself?
At just me. And I remember I put my forehead on my desk and I was like, I want to cry. But it's like so overwhelming. I literally have no emotions. And so it's funny you go from this like very desperate moment of I need work.
Yeah.
I couldn't get a job after college. My student loans started, like, you know, we're newlyweds.
Yeah.
And I have to make this work. And so you're working so hard to get anything. And then suddenly you have
52 clients at once.
At once. And I remember thinking if I stayed awake for like 2 months.
Did you do all that stuff? Did you like?
I think so. I think I ended up getting it all done. I mean, I'm sure so much of it was so late.
Yeah.
But yeah. So at that point, I was like, I need help. And so I brought in interns and then who turned into employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so at this time we lived in a city called Lancaster in California in the high desert. Shout out. If you live in California, you've probably only seen it driving to Vegas or somewhere that direction. It's very windy there. And we moved here to Minneapolis in 2012 for Jason's job. He got a job as a sports reporter for the Star Tribune here. And so I moved my business here and had a call out for employees. And I remember the first summer we were here, I had like 4 interns and I was like, they don't know this, but they're like my only friends here. This is taking a dark turn. Okay, back to positive. So, so I had those interns and then started to hire employees. And there was a point in our condo where I had 3 employees.
They're all working out of your
condo.
condo.
They're all working out of my condo living room.
Yeah.
You've actually been to that old condo.
I just remember seeing like thousands of stamps.
Yes.
You had stamps everywhere.
So many rubber stamps.
Yes.
That was so Minnesotan. So many rubber stamps.
That's good.
And so we were working out of my living room. Jason worked at home sometimes, so he had like noise canceling headphones.
Oh yeah.
And then one day I had a photographer, a videographer, a florist there, and we needed to spray paint some stuff. And it was like -10. It was February, and we had to open all the windows to spray paint. And we were like we can't do this. This is enough.
Yeah.
So I ended up renting space, actually at another condo that was 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
And that became my office. And so we all moved over there, and it was such an exciting, I had that space for a year.
You're building something. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so exciting. It felt like these are the marks that mean you've made it, to have employees, to have your own office, to have this own space that you can make things in. And the reason that I had built up that staff was, not only was I doing wedding stationery, I was also working on branding projects. So through the wedding industry, people who had seen my work would start to approach me and say, would you do my logo? Would you do business cards? And then from those experiences, I learned what does branding mean and how do you do it and how do I apply these other things I know in design to that. And then when we moved into this space, I had all this room and didn't have to like clean up every day to like make my living room back to normal. And I started to really play with styling the stationery work and branding work that I was doing, and was really excited about it and was having a lot of fun doing that. And so during this time of scaling up, something that I wasn't diligent in was like figuring out like what are all the best financial moves. It was all like very knee jerk. Like there's spray paint and windows open and all these people in the house, like we need a new space. Yeah. Or like
it's just out of the demand of like what was coming down the pipeline. Like
very
we just got to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. I have 52 clients. I need help. You know, it was all like everything I was doing was very like triggered by something that felt overwhelming. Yeah. But everything had always worked out, you know, like I didn't make a business plan for MaeMae. I just started it on a whim in college and like it just worked. Yeah. And so during this time of scaling up, it was like I was going into debt, but I was like, I'll recoup this. Like this is no big deal. And then the debt felt like it was just never going to end. And like one day I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. I thought having help and having a space would mean I would have less stress, but now I have more stress. Yeah. And I'm not at my house, you know, making it a mess with all this stuff, but like, I'm also not at my house. Like, I'm here. Like and I could see my condo from the window of my other place. And I remember just looking at it in the dark and being like, what is happening? And I just was so overwhelmed. And so one night I was looking at a project at home and I was so frustrated by it. And I was like, I'm done. Like, I do not want to do this anymore. And Jason's like, I fully support you. Like, if you really want to be done with MaeMae, like be done with it. Yeah. And
which that's an awesome husband move.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Jason,
he is, you know, he's not like on any of my business stuff, but he's completely the other half of the business, not just like of me as a person, but like he supports the business fully. You know, my first 2 years I called my unpaid internship. And so he supported me and he helps behind the scenes with everything related to the business.
Yeah. You guys, separate note, you guys bought a house and fully redid it just by yourselves.
We did. And Jason did most of it. Yeah. When I think back to it, I'm like, if I knew how much work that was going to be, I would have been really hesitant. But you kind of go into it.
What's the hashtag?
Willow Wonderland MN.
Willow Wonderland MN. Look up the hashtag on Instagram. And that's their house. It's amazing.
But yeah, so Jason was fully supportive. And so I decided I'm going to, you know, at this point I'd run 60 grand in debt.
Crazy.
And I was like, but like, I don't even know how to fix this. And so, my staff, they were amazing. Some of them stayed on for different lengths to help me finish different projects. I returned deposits to some people where I was like, we're not very far. Like, I'm just going to give you your money back. Helped align some of those clients with other people for future work. And I was like, it was kind of like a roller coaster, like of what I was trying to decide to do. But I was advised file bankruptcy and get a job. And I was like, bankruptcy, that seems like a really dirty word. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. And like get a job. I've like, no one ever hired me before. So how could I get a job? And so I was like, you know what? I'll just do wedding stationery. Like, let's scale it back to the original.
To what you did,
So I moved into an awesome co-working space. One of my employees came with me and we did wedding stationery. And then I was like, I've been really far removed from the client on this end of the business for a long time now. And sometimes they cray. And I just like...
Sometimes your clients are cray.
Sometimes brides have like moments where they become not themselves. And
that's a really nice way to put it. Wow.
It was so challenging to work with the demands. And I was already kind of like emotionally fragile. And just was like, I do not want to do this actually at all. And so I was like, so my final employee, she got another great job and she left. And I went to the guys who own the co-working space and I was like, hey guys, I'll be moving out soon because I'm applying for jobs at Target and I'm going to start working there. And they're like, what? But I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And so I stopped taking like all business, like just no business. I'm applying for all these jobs at Target. And I'm like, well, I've done a lot. And like, you know, you assemble your little resume and portfolio and you're like, this looks pretty good. I think I could get a job there. So went to several interviews, informal meetings, all sorts of things. And I was really unknown. It was either like, so you've never worked anywhere in your life? And I'm like, well, I've been doing this. Like I've literally had like, hundreds of clients, you know? So that was one side. Or the other reaction was, we have no idea why you would want to work here. We feel like we would carry your line. Like this would be like, what are you doing? Like, you know? And you're like trying
so the quality of the products you can create, they're like, this is why would you want to work for us?
Right. So it just felt like so unknown and it was really frustrating. And I was like, well, not only am I crazy in debt, now I don't even have, I've like run myself out of a job.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what am I going to do? And I was meeting with older business owners at the time and asking them, I met with 5 different people. What did I do wrong? Like what could I do better to fix this? And, you know, one of the pieces of advice was, you know, file bankruptcy, get a job. Another person told me, like, just keep the stationary side. Another person, actually Pastor Lindsay, she talked to me a lot about like putting the Lord first and all the things I did, and like changing my mindset on my business.
So to that point, how are you with the Lord as you're like, man, I feel like God out of nowhere directed me to this path. Like I had this idea in college, it has taken off, it's skyrocketed. And you feel like you're doing everything, like trying to do what God's asked you to do, yet you find yourself in debt, overwhelmed, stressed out of your mind, like not knowing, taking next step, like on the faith side of things. What were you feeling at that point?
I felt really lost, and like I didn't know who I was going to be if I wasn't, quote, Mae Mae. Yeah. Like if I worked at another business, I was thinking, like, what do I do with like my
Megan
website?
Gonzalez.
Yeah, like I'm Megan Gonzalez now, not Mae Mae. Like I don't know who Megan Gonzalez is because I've really built my identity on my business for the last 7-8 years. Wow. And so I don't really see value in that person. And like I felt just really lost in relationship to the Lord. It felt really like desperate. Yeah. But angry. Not angry at God. Like angry at myself, and then just like really desperate, but not quite believing like things could get better. Yeah. And kind of, you know what, something I really felt, and this is something I felt a lot growing, like since I was really young, is, well, I shouldn't trouble God with this problem because like I caused this. Yeah. Like God didn't tell me go hire people and go get a studio space. Like I did that. So I caused this mess, so I'll fix it.
Isn't that crazy? What an amazing point. I think most people feel that way, like when they screw up or with that. And for you, it was like it's like an innocent thing. You're like trying to keep up with the demand of your business. Right. So it's not like this sinful deal, like addiction, whatever it may be. But like even that, like however we get ourselves in these situations, like I feel bad about what I got myself into, so I need to dig myself out. Right. And you kind of you feel like the right thing to do is to leave God out of the conversation because you're like, I did this, you know? Totally. But the point of who God is the fact that we can't save ourselves like spiritually, but also everything that we do, how we live, the businesses we try to build, the family that we try to lead, all that, like every aspect of our life, we are broken. We do have like weaknesses. We do have failure at times. We do have sin in our life, like whatever it may be. We dug the hole, for sure. Yeah. But we're never going to be able to do it on our own without God. And that's the whole point. God's like, I want to be in that world. Right. I think a lot of people, when they think about church, and speaking about like the local church, when people think about, I could never go to church because I've dug myself into this thing or that thing or this way of living, and I don't even know what I believe. And the way that people think about church is they have to figure all that stuff out on their own before just walking in as they are and coming to God. God can handle all that stuff. And so, I understand that feeling of like, man, because the mistakes that I've made in life, I felt that like, man, I deserve this, that's the truth. The Bible says the wages of sin is death. Like what we earn because of our failure is death. But what we forget is the actual gospel is that Jesus died for us. And it's this free forgiveness, this free, like, I'll help you out of this. As soon as you allow me into your life, I'll help you out of this. So, you are feeling that. And you, obviously, I know who you are and your family. Like, you are letting God into that. Yeah. And he's turned it around. Totally.
Oh, for sure. So when I realized I wasn't going to get a job at Target anytime soon, I was like, I better start saying yes to some of these inquiries that are coming into my email.
You got to make money.
I got to make money. Yeah. I got this 60 grand going on. And so I applied a lot of things that I learned from talking to different business owners. Yep. About pricing structure, about proposals, about better ways to do things. Something I was really stuck into was I still saw myself as that newly graduated 22-year-old desperately messaging people trying to get work when that's not who I was anymore. And so that gave me a lot of like leverage, if you will, to like ask for more, because I was giving a lot more, and the price I was asking didn't align with what I was giving. And so I started to apply these things I was learning, and I started to do the work really fast and by myself, because I was like, I'm going to get a job soon. So I can't like have help, and I need to do these fast because I don't want to like freelance and have a job. And I paid off all my debt in a quarter.
In 3 months. You paid back the 60 grand. Just by your business.
Just through my business.
Legend.
And the thing that I kept thinking about was how God kept putting like those emails in the inbox, and
like something that you didn't necessarily search out, but then it's like a new inquiry.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Boom,
like right at the right time, like right as the other project finishes, the next thing comes in. And I thought of the story of Moses in Exodus. He lives with the Israelites in the desert, and they have no food, and God provides this food called manna, and they have the right amount for every day, and if they store it in their tent, it rots. And
so just take the right amount for the day,
right amount,
and trust for tomorrow.
Right. And I had for a long time let the things well, first of all, I was striving to like get this business, and then I would store it all up and take too much, and like that created the domino effect of hire people, get a space, and then it just like it was rotten. And so
crazy. What an analogy. Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I just kept thinking, like, as work was coming in, like, I just want to be really diligent with what I've been given, and not just be accumulating all this work. And, it takes discipline to figure out, like, how fast do I work and how do I put it on the calendar and all of that. And, but what I really learned from that season was to stop striving and to just like work with excellence. And I just know that the Lord provides. And so that experience now was like, 2-ish years ago. It was at the start of 2016 where I was debt free. And I was like, I feel like I have a fresh start. What do I want to do? And I was really passionate about styling, which I had been doing for my stationery company to sell my product, and then really got to explore when I was in that studio space. And so I had let a lot of people in on what was going on with my business, personal relationships. They knew
trusted people.
They knew what was going on. And so as they were a part of the story and saw the complete turnaround and God's provision, they would say, well, what do you want to do now? And I was like, I want to do photo styling. And just from those conversations, people would connect me with other people. And then publicly, I just would start to say on social media, I would say, now accepting styling clients. You just like say it with authority and like very official. Now I have space for you if you want to do this. And that's how I started doing it.
And is that now the majority of your business is photo styling?
It is. So at the start of this year, at the end of last year, I felt a prompting from the Lord, like let go of branding for 6 months. So that was like more of my graphic design, web design, brand development. And I didn't know why. And I was like, I can't let go of that. That's like a great foundation to my income. And so probably not, but thanks for the tip. And then
thanks God, but no thanks.
Right. At the start of the year, I was like, why would I not listen to that when he has provided for me? And also at the end of last year, Jason was saying to me, like, I think you should stop thinking that you're in the desert eating manna. Like, you're in the land of milk and honey. Like, start to live like you're there.
Yo, J-Dog's my hero. What a great, that's awesome.
And so I was like, all right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to say no to branding for 6 months. So yes, for the last,
it's like huge faith step.
Huge faith step. Because I'm like, I've only been doing this for 2 years. And sometimes you have like that imposter mentality where you're like, people are going to find out I'm actually not a stylist or photo director or art director or whatever.
But you totally are.
Like when you do something, you are the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I took that leap of faith and God just provided. And it's definitely been, I feel like I'm relying on myself way less.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, all right, the way that photo work works versus design work is there's a definite start and stop to those projects, where graphic design can like linger for forever. And so there's been tons of things I've learned from stopping doing graphic design for these 6 months. And so now in July would be the time where I would start doing it. And I'm honestly not sure like what I'm supposed to do. Is it just a personal decision now? Like the Lord just wanted to give me a season to see like, maybe you like doing this more. Like, why don't you do that? So I'm unsure what
maybe you'll pick
next.
Granny back up. Maybe not.
Maybe I will. I'm not sure. So that's the story of MaeMae Co.
MaeMae Co. That's amazing. So what like if you had goals or things that you're looking forward to when you think about your business as well as family, personally, but like what are the things that you're looking forward to or goals that you've set for that?
Yeah. So one of the goals I set this year was to be more reflective on the work I am doing. So I started to keep a journal. And I have like 6 points that I go over in the journal for every project. What went well, what was a win, what didn't go well, what's a step I can take right now so that won't happen again. What are things I brought I didn't need? What are things I needed I didn't bring? And then I set like an intention outside of the work for every project that has to do with like me.
Intention?
So at one of the shoots, I had been reading this book about shame, and I realized how often, even if just in my own head, like I kind of shame people, like, oh, that's weird. Why do you do that? Or like, you don't know, you've never experienced this.
I was talking about that same point with somebody. I was like, you're raised like a certain way, and so people that live differently or do different things or come from a different upbringing, like and even now that I'm trying to teach Adley, our daughter, like the way to live, like, an example is like I grew up like a funny example is like my parents always said like, hey, smoking's wrong, like don't smoke cigarettes. But then every time I would see somebody smoke cigarettes, like they're dying and going to hell, because they smoke cigarettes, like they're the worst. But that's not true. Like, so
no.
Anyways, my own mind would shame different people just because my parents were trying to teach me the right way to go. That wasn't their intention, but like we carry these
for sure
biases of like, if somebody's different, they're lesser than me. Anyways.
So during the week, like I'm mostly by myself. And then when I'm on set, which can be like 1 to 2 days a week, I'm with a crew of people. And so I realized, my work is very physical and very worldly in a way. And so I started to just feel like, what is something like deeper I can get out of this? So for me, that's my intention. And so at this one shoot, I was going to work on not having shameful thoughts in my head about people.
Great.
And in this book too, she was talking about like when you do say something that's like kind of judgmental or shameful, like identifying it and then apologizing. And so I even had to do that at that shoot.
Way.
Yeah. I was sometimes out of the desire to try to be funny. Sometimes I am a little cutting. And so I apologized, and the gal was like, I don't even really remember you saying that, but
what great awareness. She's probably like, you're the nicest person I've ever met.
Or a little crazy.
Or she's like, that was weird.
Why
would you say that?
Weird.
Now I feel worse about myself.
I know. So that's like one of my goals right now is I'm a very like in the now kind of person. I am not naturally interested in planning. And so that's like one of my goals right now is to just to be looking at what I can improve now, because that's like my best tool to like plan for my future, because that's just not something I'm super interested in. And sometimes I try to prompt myself, like, what's my 3-5 year goal? I don't necessarily have anything like that. Something I'm working towards right now is this is like the thing I tell people never to do, but I don't have a portfolio. And so I'm working.
Put one of those together.
I should put one of those together. And so my goal with that is, and I'm very passionate about marketing, so I'm really excited to like put a portfolio together, put some print pieces together, and like I kind of go back to what I did 10 years ago and like reach out to the types of businesses that I would like to work for, and just go to a new level with the type of projects I'm working on. Something I would love to do, I don't know if you're familiar with Wes Anderson. He's like, like to like style on a set like that.
That would be insane.
I would love that. So like, I'm trying to think like, what are the big dreams that you could think about that seem crazy? But like, let me try to think about those and start to chase them because.
So Wes Anderson.
So Wes Anderson.
Megan Gonzalez.
Give me a call.
Yeah, totally.
Let's make a movie.
Darjeeling Limited is one of my favorite movies. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not trying to promote it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Wes, what a legend.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, cool. That's where you're going. MaeMae is awesome. Kaylee and I, my wife and I, we love you and Jason, and so thankful you guys are a part of our church and part of reaching people in Minneapolis. And yeah, I love hearing your story. It's like hopefully inspiring for other people, but selfishly, like just inspired by how you guys live your life and the faith that you live by. I love those 6 questions that you're thinking like reflectively this year in everything that you do. I think that's super helpful. As we wrap up, how can people find you online, website and social media, things like that?
So my website is MaeMaeCo.com.
Yep.
And maybe by the time you hear this, I'll have a portfolio.
It's not MaeMae.co. It's MaeMaeCo.com.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah.
And then also you can find me on Instagram. It's MaeMae_Co.
Got it. Those are the 2 places.
Those are the 2 best places.
Find her. Go out.
Or you can find me at River Valley, Minneapolis on Sundays.
That's church. That's where we go. It's amazing. Shout out.
Shout out.
Good. I didn't tell you to do that.
I know.
It's amazing.
But it's real.
Okay. 2 quick questions. What's your favorite book of all time?
Favorite book of all time. Well, a book I read a year ago that I really liked was by this Japanese gal, Marie Kondo, and it's called The Magic Act of Tidying Up.
Yes.
And then there's another book called Spark Joy.
Yep.
And it's about the idea of being really aware of the objects that you purchase and then what you do with them.
Yes.
And, you know, I would say overall has a different perspective on life as a whole, but a lot of her ideas of how to not let your stuff own you, but you own it. And like your life is about your life and not your stuff.
Yep.
And how to like almost like get the stuff out of the way so you can do the things you're supposed to do. I'm not kidding you when I say life-changing. Like I spent so much time like sifting through different parts of our house and like my work stuff. And it is life-changing how much time you don't spend like picking your junk up or like sifting through stuff you don't need. And then how many less things I buy now because I'm like, what's the point of this? Where am I going to put it?
Yep.
Does it like bring joy?
Yeah.
Most things are
isn't that the point of the, like what she writes in that for tidying up? It's like living a simplistic lifestyle, what you need, but everything that you have should spark joy in you. Like you should, if it doesn't, get rid of it.
Right.
Like, and it's like the opposite of like hoarder.
Right.
Like,
and she has you like hug stuff, which like, I remember she has like a very specific
did you
order.
Do it? Be honest.
Oh, for sure. But she has like a very specific order, but it's kind of like when you get instructions and you're like, nah, I'll just do it how I want. So you're supposed to start with your clothes because it's more personal.
Yep.
But I started in the pantry and I was like hugging these like
super emotional,
like plastic cups that are from like sports games, like Utah Jazz and like Minnesota Twins. And I'm like hugging these cups and I'm like, this is so uncomfortable and no one's even watching me, but I've never felt more awkward. And so I put the cups down and I was like, I'm out. And then I came back to it like a year later and did the order she recommends, and it's more effective and you feel more comfortable hugging your stuff.
Crazy. All right. So what's it called again? The Magic Act of
Tidying Up and then Spark Joy.
And Spark
You kind
Joy.
of need both, I think.
Yeah, read both. It's great. And second question is, if you had one piece of advice for somebody following in your footsteps, so somebody that looks up to you, maybe it's the same field, maybe it's not, but just wants to live a life that you're living now, one piece of advice for them.
So something I did was I would look to people I admired and would say, I want the success they have, or I want to make the end product that they make. And so I'm kind of basing how I'm building my business off of what I see their end product.
Yep.
And I remember reading an interview with this woman I really admired and seeing what her day to day was like, you know, like, you know, at 6 a.m. I do this and at 10 a.m. I do this, one of those types of interviews.
Yeah, she runs 5 miles at 4:30.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at her day and thinking, I don't want that day. Like that doesn't fit what I'm passionate about that doesn't fit my personality.
Yeah.
And it just made me really aware that sometimes I try to like be like people that I don't know what it takes to be that or make that.
Sure.
And really what your life's about is that, you know, that 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., like what you're doing in between. And so I would actually say don't try to be like somebody else for their end product, but try to be like people for their character.
Yeah.
And so looking at people from a distance through your phone or TV or whatever is not going to give you probably the right model of who you're trying to become, because you don't know what it takes to be that. You really need an inside look. So I would shift gears in where you're finding that inspiration.
That's great. Megan, thanks so much for being on the podcast. This is awesome. You are an exception to the rule. That's amazing. Here's my sign off. Don't laugh. As a rule, be an exception to the rule. We'll see you. Peace. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, we'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. We've got new episodes releasing every single week. We'd also love to hear your questions or comments. You can comment below. You can also find us on Instagram at Exception Podcast. And I want to give a quick shout out to our producer, Tissel. My name's Kirk Graham, and we'll see you back next week.